All right. Welcome to another edition of Sabbath Lounge. This is Matt.
And Jake here.
We're coming to you with another Torah portion. This happens to be week number 34 in Numbers. We begin this Numbers 1 through 420.
Right. Just moving right along.
Yep.
The third book.
Yep.
All right, this is Bemidbar. It's in the wilderness, which is where they find themselves.
Yes, they are definitely in the wilderness.
They're in the thick of it now. Okay, so this is Sabbath Lounge presents Torah Portions, just our high view look at what is going on in this portion, and you're welcome to follow along and read it for yourself. That's our goal. You read it for yourself, and hopefully we point out some things that maybe you can think about while you're reading it.
Yep. And this one, we have Census here. There's a lot of number counting.
Right.
Kind of makes sense that the book of Numbers have numbers in it.
That's right.
Lots of numbers.
So when I first, when I was young reading the Bible, I'm like, Mom, what's Numbers about? She would say, bunch of numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And, it is to start.
Mm-hmm.
But don't worry, it gets interesting.
Yes, it does. Yeah, and I always thought it was about math. So we do have some math in our presentation. So basically, it's been 1 year, and the bride and groom have been married, and so traditional, they took a 1-year honeymoon.
That's right.
And so the honeymoon's over, and now it's time to do stuff.
Right. So in the Torah, when you get married, the husband basically takes a year off, and
well, he for sure couldn't go to war.
Right.
He was exempt from that duty.
Right. And so if you want to encourage people to start thinking more seriously about keeping the Torah, point them to this, and they'll go, yeah, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I want that year off when I get married.
Yeah.
So
but
it just gives you something light to start to jump in with.
That's right. That's right. And it shows you that it wasn't a burden, but that wasn't necessarily in the law, but that they did follow those kinds of patterns.
It's a principle.
Mm-hmm.
It's pointing to Messiah, of course, and just like Yahweh always does, he shows you by keeping the Torah himself, by leaving them in the wilderness, and then on their 1-year anniversary, that's when the work starts, when they start going out to war.
Yeah. Yep.
So again, Torah is Yahweh revealing his character to us.
Yep, exactly. So here we go into the numbers. So we put all these numbers in a handy-dandy pie chart, and I thought it was just kind of interesting to look at percentages. And Jake, was there anything that stood out to you number-wise here?
Well, I just think obviously you're gonna say, well, who's the biggest group? Everyone always wants to know who's the biggest group. So we got Judah there at hovering right around 12.5% of the entire nation.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2, I like to look at Manasseh and Ephraim kind of together.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a big group. Joseph's group's pretty big. So I just think that's interesting.
Yeah.
When you squish Manasseh and Ephraim together as a Joseph tribe, and then Judah. So yeah, just pretty interesting just to see the actual. It's one thing to read the numbers and just kind of drone on through the numbers as you're reading them, but to actually look at it and think about what's actually going on is neat.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at Benjamin. It's pretty small.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I question the scale of the pie chart because Benjamin is showing almost as big as Dan there. So,
well, I think,
or maybe it's off.
I think there's supposed to be a line.
Oh,
in there,
maybe it's
they ran out of color. I think they ran out of colors.
Yeah. Well, you get the idea.
I get the idea. Yes.
So anyway, it's interesting to think about it in those terms. Anything else?
Nope.
So we'll move on. And so they camped out. So,
who doesn't like a good camp out?
No, he doesn't like a good camp out. Do you think they sat around the fire and sang songs and had hot beverages?
Probably.
So possibly.
Yeah. It's most likely
Yeah.
that they did that.
Yeah, I don't think they're much different than we are, and those are the things that we would do. So,
right.
So when they camped out in a certain order. So Jake, can you explain this layout and what this was?
Not really, Matt. No. So I think what you see is they're getting prepared to. It's really neat to just see how organized everything is, because what's one of the first things that remember when they come out of Egypt, he says, "I'm bringing an army out of Egypt," and so this is what's like the first thing they do when you go into the military is they beat you down, right? And they build you from the ground up to be disciplined. And that's what Yahweh's doing. He takes them out in the wilderness where they have nothing. He basically puts them through boot camp, and now right here he's starting to build them back up. So the drill instructor doesn't call you maggot the whole time, just till you get beat down, and then he starts building you up, right? And then by the end you're best friends.
Yeah,
is how the word on the street.
That's how that works, is it?
Right. So they'll have their little camps, and you'll see in later portions they start making little flags and little trumpet noises to make signals, and it's just awesome to watch this team come together.
Yeah.
And then you can see the numbers here for the different groups.
Yeah. And what's in the middle?
The tabernacle's in the middle, and the Levites.
Yep. Yeah, and this is oriented north at the top, south at the bottom, and east on the right, and on the left is east.
West.
I'm sorry, west. I said that wrong. Yeah.
West.
So, yeah. West. So Judah is facing east on the east side, which is interesting. So,
right. Why is that interesting, man?
Well, I always think of, thinking of my grandmother. My grandmother said, Matt, when you get buried, when you die, I don't know why she thought I would have any control over what happens when I die, but she thought you should always make sure that you face east.
After you die, make sure, man.
When they plant you in the ground, you're supposed to face east, so that when Messiah comes back, you can rise up and you'll be facing him.
Yeah.
So that's just old school, what people used to do. And so a lot of old timers thought that about how you got planted in the cemetery. And so I'm thinking it's interesting.
Yeah.
And it's cool that they thought like that and anticipated that. But I don't know that it matters.
So, I think you'll find your way.
I think so. I think so. It just and so. But definitely there's something to them being in the East Gate. You can line this up and do a search on the East Gate of in heaven. And, there's definitely something to this East Gate, and it was important in how it was oriented.
Right. And you read through Ezekiel at the temple that comes down in the millennial reign, and Yeshua enters through the East Gate. Yeshua is from Judah, right?
Yep. Well, and also, I think it's amazing how organized that this machine must have been, because if you can imagine, if you've ever, we've all been in a big assembly, been in a big building. We've all gone to some big event, probably, most likely. If you're listening to this, you've been to a sporting event. Maybe you've been to a mudder event where they run the trucks through mud or something. and when
that is our key audience.
Yes, it is. Our demographics are showing now. And maybe that's for me when I was a kid. And, you leave some big event, and that was a big event in Lubbock, Texas, let me tell you. So, and everyone goes to the parking lot, and it's kind of crazy. You got all these cars, and people are trying to get out the exits and honking horns and waiting in line, and they've just been amped up watching some event, and their team won or lost, and
couches are on fire in the streets.
Yes.
Takes longer to get home than it did to sit through the event.
Yeah. So we've all been there, and we know how how crazy that can be. And you think about all of these guys, and they all kind of had to be moving the same direction and some coordination when they packed up and left. And we read recently about how the tribe of Levi, they're packing up all the stuff in the middle, plus their own gear. And so they've got some people that just are responsible for different elements of the tabernacle, and then they had their own stuff too, as well.
And every time they set up camp, it's always facing the same direction.
Mm-hmm. And they probably moved, you would assume that maybe they all moved, and it makes sense almost if everyone went in a clockwise motion to set in and to leave. There had to be some very organized structure. Otherwise, it just looks like it'd be chaos.
Yeah.
So, and we don't believe he is a God of chaos because he says he isn't.
Good point.
Mm-hmm. So very organized and orderly. And just another point that we serve a God that is very organized and orderly.
Right.
Precise. So precise, he told them where to be.
Right. Where to camp.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it was necessarily, I'm sure it means maybe more than what we understand, but it's largely just an organizational deal.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were in charge, you would probably implement some version of this with all these people.
Right.
You would have to.
And I think if you look at things like Boy Scouts and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, it's very similar to this.
Yes.
I've never been a Boy Scout, but I have seen things on YouTube.
I was a Boy Scout leader at one point in my life for my youngest son.
Yeah.
So.
And did it look similar to this?
No, it was organized. Yeah. But I never wore the brown shirt though. I refused to wear
fancy
that.
stash.
Yes, I didn't. I
refused to wear it.
I was like, no, nice. Thank you. So
I will not. You probably made a real big stink about it.
No,
and it was very, very uncomfortable for everybody.
I just didn't do it. All right, so here's another representation of how they laid out, and we talked about this. Jake, do you think they all were in perfect little rectangles like that?
Yes, Matt, they absolutely were.
Yeah,
and I can prove it. No, they probably weren't. They probably. I don't know if you've ever camped out with a group of weirdos, but
I have.
Someone always has to go out on their own and put the hammock way up in the tree over by the pond,
the water,
instead of at the campsite,
way up high,
like
20 feet in the air.
Right.
Yes. Jake and I speak of something that actually happened.
Right.
So. But yeah, you put people together, and you could. I'm sure they did stay in the general area, but I don't think they had to be perfectly square and rectangle the way this image is shown. But it makes a nice image, and it's also the shape of a
cross. It looks
or the
like.
Tav for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
So, which is also quite interesting.
Yep.
So, with the tabernacle being in the middle, and the cloud and the pillar of fire right. there. So
that's a pretty neat little image there.
And when you saw that move, you knew it was time to go.
Yep.
So, in some ways, you kind of go, I wish life could be that easy for me today. So, just look up and go,
just follow the cloud.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not that easy, I don't think. So, it made me think of all of this stuff that we're seeing here is it's like one body with many parts.
Right. And where do you see that?
So Paul talked about it, and we all always think about his passage about the eye can't say to, one part can't say I'm more important than the other, and I don't need you.
Right.
This is definitely one body with many parts in the flesh. And I never saw that until I came into Torah.
Yeah. And it's something that becomes important in a few more chapters when we start looking at people that want to be a more important body part than what they've been assigned.
Yeah, that's right. It does not go well for some people. So, and I think we are coming to the end of this one, and then we still have a few more here. So, one body, many parts, and we're starting to see the beginning of Israel. True Israel, what they really are.
And they kind of have it together right now.
Yeah. They're starting to have an identity. They have a reputation. People are starting to hear about them. And he told them that he would send a messenger out to go before them. Right. And he does that.
And then, so at the end here of this portion, you see that they get these assignments to wrap all their things up and head out, right?
Mm-hmm. With the Levites.
Right. And so it says, and they shall put it and all the vessels thereof within a covering of badger skins, and shall put it upon a bar. Now, there's all kinds of verses in here that are talking about the same kind of thing. So we just picked one because the important thing I wanted to bring up here was this badger's skins. What do you think there? Why do you think they would cover it in badger skin?
Well, it would seem weird to cover it in an unclean animal.
Right.
That's for sure. It'd be, it's not quite as crazy as covering it with, say, snake skin. That would be...
Well, that just makes sense, man.
But yes, it doesn't make sense to for something so holy and important and set apart to have an unclean animal on it.
Right. So when you look up that word, it's Tejas.
Oh, I like that word.
And so...
Tejas.
Yeah. Tahas. I guess this guy's pronouncing it Takash or something like that. I don't know where it's getting the K Texas sound, but right. But basically, it's a kind of leather, and it could even be like sheepskin, which would make more sense. I don't think they had a lot of badgers running around there anyway, probably. But the point is, you gotta be careful with what the translation is. Go look up the words for yourself sometimes when you're reading through it and it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would they do that?
Context is everything, and we recommend using tools like Blue Letter Bible or Strong's Concordance. I have a Strong's Concordance. In fact, it's on the shelf right here. But the Blue Letter is just so fast and easy.
It's a lot easier. Yeah.
That doesn't. I can't type in a word and go find it there. So not quite as convenient.
Right. But that doesn't mean don't have one on your shelf and know how to use it.
Yes.
Eventually, the way Matt and I think, there will be a drought of the word, and you may not be able to just get it on your phone. So
yeah, and we may not always have the luxury of electricity like we've known. So, but anyway, that's a good point about the badger skins, and we come to the end of week 34. Jake, is there anything else you want to say about this?
Nope. This is lots of numbers starting off here, and lots of important information. So go ahead and read through it and let us know what you think.
Yep, and we appreciate you giving some time to Sabbath Lounge, and we appreciate likes, comments, subscriptions. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and tell someone else about it, and Google Sabbath Lounge for more information, and you'll find out all kinds of stuff. So
all about us,
and it's not about us, not about us trying to be something. We're just a couple of guys trying to follow Torah and keep the feast, just probably like you are,
right?
And we don't claim to be some kind of genius about it. And we're just trying to figure it out and work out our own salvation with fear and trembling.
And we encourage you to do the same.
That's right. Well, we appreciate you stopping by, and this is Matt and
Jake
signing off.